All right, so here we are in second to last video in this series of repeated measures ANOVA. This is APA style notation and results using the Jamovi output. So for this, the first thing you want to do is report the omnibus test, which again is the overall result. So this is how you would write this out in APA style notation. You have a capitalized F in italics, and then inside the parentheses, you do your degrees of freedom between, a comma, and then degrees of freedom within or error. And then you report your F value, you report your P value, the P is italicized, and then you also report the eta squared effect size. So the way this works is that if it's significant, you then would also report your Tukey's t-test results. And the way that you would do that, you can do it a couple ways. You can write about it, which I'll demonstrate. And then in the next video, I'll show how to create an APA style table so that you can refer to that rather than writing about it in your paragraph format. Okay, so first, let's look here. The way that we make this notation work is that, again, we start with our F and it's italicized, and then I'm going to move the degrees of freedom here between, which is 2, and then I would have a comma and put the degrees of freedom error or within, which would be here, so 68, and then report the actual F statistic, which would be the 5.86. And I'm rounding to 2 numbers off the decimal. I know my handwriting isn't that great from the computer. The p-value, again, I'm going to do 0.01, or I'm sorry, I'm going to do less than 0.01. So rather than do the equal sign, I'm going to use this less than 0.01, just because I like to have, for APA, I like to have the same number of numbers after the decimal. And then I'm going to put my eta squared here, which would be 0.11. So now the way that we would write about that is we want to, again, make it a paragraph format. So you see, I wrote this out ahead of time, and just like other videos and the way I wrote it out in class, I like to start with the name of the test. So repeated measures ANOVA, and determine there's a significant difference. And this is talking about the omnibus results. So we're saying overall, there's a significant difference in time completing the Stroop task, which is the dependent variable. But it's for the same participants across 3 music conditions. And then I just report the omnibus results here, which is the APA results. This is the notation, right? So I'm just putting that right down there. The effect size was moderate, so you can include that, saying this suggests the difference may be meaningful. But then the key here is that after that, I'm going to report the Tukey's post hoc comparison results. So I found that participants performed the Stroop task significantly faster in the silence condition. And then I want to include the mean, which was 114.20 seconds. And then standard deviation, 58.01. You can get this by having it report marginal means. But then for the standard deviation, you're going to have to go to descriptive statistics anyway. So that's a good place to do that. And then I'm going to compare that to the classical condition, which is the mean equals 160.09, standard deviation equals 55.26. Now, this is the Tukey result, and I'm reporting the one that's statistically significant here. So I just used the t-test format for the notation and said that t is 34, or t of 34 degrees of freedom equals negative 3.16, and the p is 0.01. So just the way I would for a p-value, for a t-test. I also identified that there were no other significant differences between these conditions and the rock condition, and I gave the rock condition mean and standard deviation. And then I just included in here that the hypothesis was partially supported, because what I was expecting to find was that silence condition, that they were faster in that than both of the other conditions, which I did not find. So this is one way that you could write this out. The other option is that you could make this a lot shorter and say, that the overall there was a significant difference, and then see table 1 below for specific differences between groups according to the Tukey's post hoc test, whatever you want to say there. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how to make an APA style table. I'm going to use Google Docs because we're using that in class, but it works very similarly in Word. So I am going to go ahead and see you in the next video if you are interested.